What is going on YouTube? In this video, I'm going to explain Wuthering Waves combat to the best of my ability. And when I started this whole project in the Paint app for some god-awful reason, I did not anticipate the combat being this complex and in-depth, nor did I think it would take me this long to do this video. So if you guys appreciate that, subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up, follow me over on Twitch. I will be streaming the closed beta, and we could talk about it all day over there. So let's get right into it. This is a huge project I did. I'm just zoomed in quite a bit. I added some fan service so you guys can look at some stuff, and let's start talking, okay? There are 3 characters for every composition, okay? And when you guys see how in-depth the combat is, I think we're all gonna be like, 3 makes sense. If it were 4 characters, it would be too much to compute in seconds at a time in combat, right? So every character has 5 types of attacks: normal, heavy, evasion, parry, and plunge. A normal attack is just clicking. Heavy attack is holding the attack button. An evasion attack is attacking after a successful dodge. Parrying is a timed normal, heavy, or skill attack. You can parry with any one of those if you want. And then a plunge attack is attacking in air. Okay. Moving on. Now we're going to cover resonance circuits. You guys have all seen it. You're all probably curious. It's that little sound wave looking thing above your character's health bar. They all look different. They all do different things. They are all consumed different. They're just all different. They're very character specific. In other words, if you're playing one character, you're going to have to go to their talent tree and read how to utilize and charge up their resonance circuit, okay? If you're playing one character, it'll say you have to do this to charge it up and consume it. Okay, very character specific. And then when it's full and you consume it, it will do a number of things, also character specific. Some of them will heal you. Some of them will give the team buffs. Some of them will buff up a heavy attack or do like a big AoE thing or whatever. They're all very, very different. And I am absolutely in love with this. I am in love with this because it makes each character feel unique to the next. The combat is never going to get dry. If you're playing one character and you're just like, oh, I click, 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 and then I swap and then I click, 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 click. No. It doesn't work like that. You have to know how to build up that character's circuit, and how, like, right, I have to do this to build up the circuit, and then I have to do this to consume it, which will buff up the team, and then I have to switch, and to build up their circuit is something completely different, which will also heal me or do whatever, right? It totally different and character specific, and I absolutely love this. I love this. This is going to make the combat feel so fresh and alive, and what it's gonna do is it's gonna give the combat legs, man. The combat is not going to get boring by any stretch of the means. Like, it's all different. So I'm absolutely in love with this concept here. Absolutely love it. By the way, I just remembered, I have to say this, some of these things may change. Right, with the launch of the game, some of this stuff may change. Let's move on to what the game calls a resonance liberation, which is your ultimate. Okay, I'm sure we're all just going to continue to call it our ultimates. And this is fairly simple. You use it and it recharges. It just passive recharge goes around your little icon, and then when it's full, your icon will glow or pulse, and then you can use it again. Very simple. And then one of the most important parts about Wuthering Waves combat is the Concerto system. PGR players will probably understand this. I didn't, when I first heard about this, it was totally new to me. I didn't really understand it. So it's your Concerto bar. It's just above your character's health bar over on the left, and it's like a little hexagon. And when you fill it up, you can do a Concerto ensemble. And we'll get to that. Don't worry about that. I didn't say that, whatever. You fill up the bar, switch is essentially, right? So Concerto bar is a QTE system, which allows you to swap characters. And the way you charge up your Concerto bar is to have successful attacks and skills, right? Land, successful attacks, and skills, and you will charge up your Concerto bar. That is super, super important. So now that we've covered the basics, your normal attacks, your resonance circuit, your ultimates, and then the Concerto bar, we can now move on to the elements. Okay, so coming up here to the elements. Don't laugh at me, I ran out of space, so I put the Conducto symbol over here. So we have 6 elements: fire, ice, lightning, wind, dark, and light. Okay, in Wuthering Waves, it's called Fusion, Glacio, Conducto, Arrow, Havoc, and Spectra. Now the next question begs, how do we do elemental reactions, right? So, remember I said the Concerto bar is very important. This is how you do elemental reactions, okay? This is what Wuthering Waves calls a Concerto ensemble. This is when, let's say you have one character who's Arrow, and you fill up their Concerto bar, and then you swap to a character who is Conducto. That performs a reaction between the 2 elements and does a Concerto ensemble. You can do a Concerto ensemble by combining any of these 4 basic elements: Fusion, Glacio, Conducto, and Arrow, okay? Any one of these is a Concerto ensemble, any one of them excluding Dark and Light, or Havoc and Spectra, okay? And doing different combinations of these will do different things for your party. For instance, if you combine Fusion with Arrow or Glacio with Conducto, you will get a 40% damage increase to normal and heavy attacks for 12 seconds. 12 seconds is important because if you do this elemental reaction, attack for 6 seconds, and then swap again, this does not carry over to your next character. That window of time is gone. So it's important to, after doing a Concerto ensemble, keep that character on the field for at least 12 seconds to utilize the full duration of that buff. Super important. Okay, if you combined Arrow and Glacio, or Fusion with Conducto, you will get a 40% damage increase to your skills for 12 seconds. These are just the character skills. A lot of them, do something along the lines of their element, like a big attack or whatever, for 12 seconds. And remember, if you swap, you lose that window of time for that buff. Another example is Fusion and Glacio, or Arrow and Conducto, will give you a 40% damage increase to your Resonance Liberation. This should say Liberation, which is your ultimates for 12 seconds, okay? You'll get a 40% damage increase to your ultimates. It's like, it's huge. And the way I remember this one is like opposite elements, right? It kind of makes sense. Fusion and Glacio, they're opposites. And then Arrow and Conducto, kind of opposites, right? So you can remember that by thinking the opposite. At least that's how I'm going to do it. Okay, so 3 separate buffs with all of these kinds of combinations. Already the combat is hugely in depth, and now you're starting to think, what kind of composition do I want to run? What's it going to look like? How's it going to feel? It's crazy. Doing this, keeping this in mind, on top of already knowing how each character's resonance circuit works, this is crazy, man. It's way in depth, way in depth. I'm super stoked for this. Super stoked. Okay, so now you guys are probably wondering, well, what about Havoc and Spectra, right? When you combine Havoc to any one of these 4 basic elements, you have what the game considers a Concerto Legato, right? Which is the implementation of Havoc to any one of these elements. And what this will do is give you a 20% damage increase to resonance skills for 15 seconds. And some of you might think, well, that's just way worse than this one here, right? Why wouldn't I just use this? This is 40% damage increase to skills for 12 seconds. It's 3 seconds less, but it's double the value. Well, there's a caveat here, okay? When you switch with this buff, the duration remains. You can swap within this window of time and the buff will continue. Okay, I said it was important earlier to consider what it was when you're doing a Concerto ensemble. If you swap, you lose that window of time. Okay, when you swap, when you have Havoc now, all of a sudden that window of time stays, and the value is now doubled up to 40% increased resonance skill damage. Okay, so it's very nuanced, right? What this does is it allows you to play like this super skill buffed kind of composition without having to worry about losing like way more buff uptime, essentially, right? Because it just, you guys understand it. Super nuanced, pretty damn cool. Okay, so you've seen that, so now you're wondering, well, what about Spectra? Okay, let's go over it. With Spectra is the implementation, or Concerto sustenance is what Wuthering Waves calls it, which is the implementation of Spectra to any one of the 4 elements. And what it does is it slows, what did I write here? Slows doze? Jesus, I spent hours on this and I misspelled down. Okay, anyway, it slows down time around your character, right? In this little sphere bubble thing around your character, you slow down time and you restore 10 Concerto energy after using it for the switch. In other words, if you're this character and you swap into Spectra, it restores 10 energy to that character. What this allows you to do is super fast gameplay, right? It allows you to like focus on fast attacks, fast switching, and maintaining energy so you can continue to switch even more, right? You'll be able to switch faster because if you swap off a character and their Concerto bar is empty, you obviously have more time on the field with that one character trying to gain Concerto energy. But if you add Spectra into the equation, when you swap back to that character, he already has 10 Concerto energy and will take less time to charge it up fully to get another Concerto ensemble or another Concerto sustenance, right? So very fast. Boom, 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 quick attacks, fast switching, recharging energy, right? So, I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy in depth. It is mad in depth, guys. And this little project took me forever to do. I know when I zoom out here, it doesn't look like a lot, but man, trying to explain the combat is absolutely insane. And it's so in depth, guys. I mean, the combat is not going to get boring, right? And you know what? It's going to take all of us a pretty damn long time to know this stuff, like just by heart, to know this stuff. It's going to take a while. I mean, this is tons of combinations of things, right? I mean, you got to know that when you combine fusion and arrow, that you're getting a buff to your normal and heavy attacks for 12 seconds. You have to know that, right? If you accidentally do that when you wanted to buff up your resonance liberations, your ultimates, you're missing out on uptime for whatever you wanted to do, whatever your combination was whatever your combo was, right? So we gotta know all this stuff, and it's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be nuts. Anyway, that's the best way that I could explain the combat. It's a lot, and this took me a while. So if you guys appreciate this video, again, please subscribe to the channel. Join our Discord down below. Go follow me on Twitch. I will be streaming the closed beta. We could talk about all this kinds of stuff. And yeah, this is obviously subject to change for the launch of the game. But other than that, I'll see you guys in the next video.